also read Upper Feather River Integrated Regional Water Management. What am I on? What am I on, Randy? Is it the management team?
Yes, it's management group.
Management group, management council. I don't supposed to be a part of this. I'm just observing.
You're invisible. Go back.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan Burnett with Point Blue Conservation Science and the Lake Elmer Watershed Group.
Charlie Flopper, Lake Elmer Watershed Group.
G. Martin Films Corporation.
Mike Calderon, Trout Unlimited.
Bill Copeland, Feather River Chapter.
Dan Martin, Department of Agriculture here.
Paul Violet, Chief Forester, Silver Wheeler Company.
Mike Mitsel, District Manager for Sierra Pacific Industries.
Ryan Hoburn, Forester with W. Davis Associates.
Lacey Miles, Regional Rancheria. Alicia Wilson, National Coordinator at Regional Rancheria. Cindy Noble, Travel.
The Dennis Island Sacramento Watershed Program.
Todd Hiller, Department of Water Resources, Northern Region Office.
Heather Kingdon, representing egg producers with Indian Fig Tree.
Nils Lender, Mountain Meadows Conservancy, Feather River RTD.
I'm Ron Lander from the Mountain Meadows Conservancy.
And I'm Terry Russ, I'm the coordinator for this work group. So thanks
And
everybody.
Leah Hill.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Leah Will, Button's County.
Jeff Carter, County.
So I just wanted to throw up with some of you that are a little bit new. We're not going to spend too much time going back, but contact information for this group. If you have questions in between meetings, Carl Phelps, who isn't with us, being taped. Just remember that. Carl Phelps is the chairperson of this work group. He had hip surgery yesterday, so he decided he didn't really want to do it today. But our alternate chairperson is Cindy Noble, over here in the corner, and then myself. So our email contact information is here. If you have questions in between meetings or just want to throw ideas at us or whatever, this is the way you can reach us. And then again, our website address is on here too.
Can't really see it because of the font color, but
Oh, that's a bummer, isn't it?
we can read it off or something.
It does that automatic.
On the link.
Yeah.
Featherriver.org.
Can you guys see it at all, or is it?
I don't see it.
Okay. I'm not your best slide.
It's also on the agenda.
It's also, the agenda's got our contact information too, so it's written down. So for today, I'm just going to run through the agenda real quick, give you an idea of what we're trying to get out of the next few hours that we're together here. I'm going to go through a quick summary. The Regional Water Management Group did have a meeting on January 28th, so I'll just give you a little bit of quick synopsis of that because we're intimately tied to their schedule and they're passing stuff down to us, so just so you can keep in touch with that. We're gonna one of our main things today. We've got three probably really main things we're gonna do is identify issues or potential project areas. So first part of this meeting, first third of it roughly is probably going to be, or depending on how much you guys are engaged with it, will be really about identifying those issues in the Upper Feather River region that you think are related to meadows, floodplains, and water bodies, and that this group, is going to have projects or, ideas and stuff coming from. So that'll be what we are going to do for the first part. And then we're going to tie that into plans and goals for this plan update. So there are goals and objectives, Goals and objectives. We do have a draft form of that that's been passed to us from the management committee, so we'll be hashing over that today and seeing how that fits in putting our issues and tying them to those goals and objectives. And then we also, our first meeting, if you were here last time in December, we started to identify the resource management strategies, and as everybody realized, there's about 30 of them, and it was a kind of cumbersome task, and we ended up identifying a lot more and we had to prioritize, and we went down to about 6. We're going to review those 5 or 6 that we think are the top ones for this group. We may even drop a couple of them, and we're going to tie our issues to those. So the issues, tying the issues to the goals and objectives and to the resource management strategies by the end of today should help us kind of really constrain what this group's going to end up working on for the rest of the time over the next year and a half. And then we're also going to present a project, here's another part of it, project solicitation form. Our consulting staff has come up with a draft solicitation form, which you guys got in your packet. Most of this information you guys hopefully had a chance to review ahead of time. But we will be reviewing that and seeing if you guys want to make any changes or recommendations to the steering team about that. And then we'll go over next steps and schedule our next meeting. You guys have any questions up to now, or have most people been able to get the stuff online when I send out email and stuff? Okay. So anytime you guys have needs, that's kind of what my role is too. Just throw something at me, or if you need other stuff on the website or more information, that's part of what I'm supposed to help facilitate for you guys. So feel free to contact me. So the Regional Water Management Group had a meeting on the 28th. And first thing that happened was there was a work group update. So all the work group chairs gave a brief update and identified those resource management strategies that we were thinking of working on. I think the management group was really happy to see that all the work groups seemed very ambitious and had initially identified about 19 or 20 of the 30 that they thought they could work on. And that's great, but we probably don't have the time to do that. So the management group, asked us actually even before the meeting, the chairperson and myself for this group, we identified those that we felt had the strongest support in this group last meeting, and we'll review those and make sure that that's still true. But it was just to appease the management group because they did not want to see that we wanted to do 20 of these and take that on. So. They also talked about a little bit of what, just some outreach. It looks like we're probably going to try to put together a trifold flyer that just talks about the whole process, and that way we'll be able to hand that out and keep educating people and bringing people in about this. LaHontan did a really nice one that, and some of this, if you want to see, UMA puts together a really good packet for the meeting. So if you go online to the website, featherriver.org, you'll be able to pull up most of this information so you can go back and check it. But yeah, LaHontan just kind of came up with something like this that was like a trifold, and it just gives you information and stuff. So it was just a good way to share it. So I think the group has decided that would be a good thing that the consulting staff's going to come up with and generate. They also talked about chapter development, so that's something that's we're going to be an intimate part of work group. Not today, but we will be doing chapter development. So the first couple of chapters that UMA is working on right now is the regional description of the area, and then technical studies. And that's going to we'll talk about that a little bit more when I bring up the call for our papers again. But the technical studies part is really going to tie in what we know about the area. So those are 2 chapters she's working on over the next couple of months. And you guys will be eventually reviewing those as well and making comments on them as they pertain to this work group. And then plan goals and objectives. So for the current IRWM plan, we're going to go over the draft goals and objectives they came with. I think Russell can attest to how much fun it was that the management team tried to take on. Not only looking at the 2005 goals and objectives from the 2005 plan, but also to try and create their own. And there was definitely a lot of discussion about it, and they finally got to a point where the consulting staff had actually made some recommendations, and in the end, pretty much they went with those recommendations. So that's what we'll be reviewing today is those recommendations, goals and objectives for the plan. And then project development solicitation, which we're going to go over today, they presented a draft solicitation form, and we'll be reviewing that today too. They didn't get too much into selection, project selection or ranking criteria, just ran out of time, so they didn't end up doing that. And again, I just let you know that it's on the website. Their next meeting is March 27th at 1 p.m. at the planning department here in Quincy. So that's pretty much that meeting. And now we can just wanted to throw this out, that you do have this in your packet, a letter, but a call for studies. And right now, the consulting staff team is trying to compile all the studies for this region in this area, for all the work groups, just all the information we have so we can get a sense for what data is out there and what information is available. So if you have any access to information, reports, papers, data collection, let the group know, because we would like to continue to keep archiving that, getting it on the website, and it's also part of the actual plan write-up on the technical studies part. So it's been kind of coming in little bits and pieces, but we know there's a lot out there, so we're encouraging people to reach out and send that to us when you get a chance. And then I thought I would just reiterate, or not reiterate, but just bring, as new people are coming in, a little bit up to speed. The whole purpose of this plan update is to shape things in a collaborative way. So our water management strategies up here for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So it's trying to look at what our issues are and come together with that, working together and come up with strategies in which to work on those issues. And find ways in which we can find funding in the future. Obviously, Prop 1, is one mechanism for funding, and having this IRWM plan in place will allow us access to some of that funding. But there is other funding out there too that hopefully this plan will help set up, this region for being able to get some funding that way if we're all collaborating on the same issues and have identified them and figured it out. So that's. We also are required to do the plan update. There is a 2005 IRWM plan for the Upper Feather River, but we're required to update it. So now we're going to get to the part, one of your first little exercises today, and that is to identify issues and potential projects. And I think the way I'm going to try that, we're the first work group out for the second phase of meetings, so I'm the guinea pig. We're going to see how this works today, and I think the other work groups will either say, yeah, this was a rock star way to do it, or they're going to go, we're going to try something a little different. But what I'd like to do maybe is just review a little bit of where the issues fit into this. This is a very simple little diagram, but it's just that issues are kind of the core. We need to really identify those. We kind of figured that out after the last meeting, is that it's really important that we get group's issues out on the table, because that's going to really dictate what our goals and objectives are going to be, and then it's also going to tie us to the resource management strategies as identified in the California Water Plan. So it's that way to link those two things together. In terms of the issues, some things that you can just kind of think about as we're identifying these issues is it a site-specific issue? Is it region-wide? Do we have enough baseline data? Do we need to do more, do we need to have more information before we can address a certain issue? And then just if you already have projects associated with identified issues, some work groups, we're all going to be at different stages with that. I know Uni, I think, has shovel-ready projects ready to go, but we may or may not be at that stage. But definitely that's where we're ultimately going, is to have projects. But the first thing is to figure out what our important issues are.
Terry, what did you just say? Did you say muni?
Oh, municipal group, I'm sorry.
Okay. Just wasn't sure.
Yeah. The other work group. We have the 4 work groups. So municipal, I think, we use them as an example. They're kind of more structured, defined. Their job is probably a little bit easier than ours. We do have a very diverse group in here with very diverse interests. And so that's going to make it somewhat challenging, but also, I think, really, fun about this group. But it also means that, tying things together isn't as straightforward, maybe, or even deciding on projects and things like that. So I'm going to ask, I didn't get to warm her up about this, but what I think I might try to do with the issues and objectives is have Cindy, if she will, I have over behind Ryan there. There's a marker and a pad of paper. What I thought is that we can either just go around the room or people can raise their hand or whatever, but let's just start identifying issues. And we'll put them up on this, and then eventually what we'll do is just tape them on the wall so that as we're going through the goals and objectives, you guys will be able to look at them right there. You will be able to take those issues and start to plug them into these other matrices that we have. So that's kind of what we're going to, and it might be easiest just right on the table for now, because that thing is floppy. But so I'm kind of opening it up to you guys now. This is sort of your time to why you're here and what you want to do. And
Water quality.
Okay.
I have a question. What is the boundaries of the Feather River IRWN?
Oh, you know what? That's an awesome question. I actually have, in fact, we can play with this map as well.
Back there.
Yeah, we could either put it back there, or is it going to be easier on this wall over here for folks to see? But basically, it does go into 4 different counties. I don't know if you were at the last.
Does it include Lassen?
A little bit of Lassen, a little bit of Butte. It actually went down into Orville. Randy can even talk about this a little bit more, but when they did the regional acceptance process, we actually probably got a bigger chunk than we might have taken on normal, just because we don't do a whole lot down there by Orville.
In hydraulic terms, it's basically the watershed for the Feather River, including the north, middle, and south fork branches, all the way down to the dam door. So it's a pretty big area. It includes many counties, Plymouth, Sierra, a little bit of Yuba, Tehama, Lassen County, Meade County.
Here, I have a question.
Basically, the drainage or the source of water for the California water.
So, I have a question for clarification. Should we be looking at the old plan, the 05 goals and stuff, and see which ones we want to carry over, if they're all applicable? I mean, would that be easier? Or?
Well, no, we will jump into those. Those are part of your packet, actually. And again, Russell can attest to this. People kind of got lost in that first. I think if we know our issues that we want to deal with in this group, like we identify what are the problem issues. Is that degraded meadows? Is that water quality? Is it you don't have enough fish habitat? Every person here, I figure, is in the room for a reason, either a project or an idea, or people represent a lot of different areas. So I think the idea was to identify the issues first, and we are going to do that by the time the day's over. We're going to have looked at the old ones, which actually the management group has already done, and they punted on a lot of the old ones or integrated them into the ones that we're going to look at today. So, but yeah, we will definitely. But we thought that identifying the issues might be an easier way, also just for you guys to prioritize your resource management strategies. I mean, the strategies you picked originally, some of them may drop out just by the fact that you don't have any issues that really seem to pertain to them, so then we're going to drop them off. But, so, John?
May I mention 2 or more issues?
Oh, you can mention as many as you want. This is a brainstorming session, so just get it out.
I'd like to piggyback on Mills with quantity. And then near the top of the list of issues is fisheries. We at some point will probably be getting into grazing on public lands, and I think that would be an issue also.
So you want grazing on public land identified as an issue right now? Okay.
You touched on one that needs to be on the list, and that would be degraded meadows.
That's kind of hand in glove with what did you say? Degraded meadows. Degraded meadows.
Anybody else got?
Wildfire impacts.
Okay.
Terry, are we talking about issues that would fall under the what this group is going to be interested in, or issues that the entire plan is? Are we focused on just what
We're
this?
focused on this group, yeah. So each group should be focusing on their thing. I mean, we're figuring that people at the table here are here because they're interested in this particular aspect of the plan. So yeah, we'll be focusing our energies on, and in the end, they'll all get put together. Each group's going to come together and put theirs out there. But this right now should be focused on the meadows. Yeah.
Well, again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record carried over from the last meeting, but it seems like we would be well served to really focus on, like meadows and water bodies, and perhaps maybe leave the fire stuff to the forest group, or, I mean, while we're all interested in all of these things, if we're going to try to, the different work groups be effective, try to focus on what is priority, I understand has been deemed our priority by the leadership.
In the context, I was intending to reference the exact water effects in a water body that occur from the surface drainage that are occurring in watersheds as we speak in these rainstorms. There's direct sediment effects occurring.
From,
Yeah.
okay, I thought you were talking about.
But, I mean, it's broader than that, but at least in the context of this group, I specified.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's really relevant, yeah.
And I'm the coordinator for the Uplands and Forest Work Group, and I'm here to listen so I can help with the, because it doesn't stop in one place. It's for overlapping issues and things that go from forest to meadows and meadows to forest.
And there's definitely going to be some overlap, you know, there's water quality, I realize, you know, there's going to be overlap with the ag group or, you know, the ag group and things like that. But I think right now it's just the time to kind of brainstorm and throw what's out there, and we'll be massaging and working on these, but the idea is just to get out, you know, what the people that are here are interested in, you know, working on and see as the issues, or even issues that we see coming down the road, like climate change and stuff. There's, you know, some things that may not be quite.
Maybe conifer encroachment in the meadows. Fire.
Terry, I have
Oh,
and again,
yeah.
I'm probably going backwards here, I don't mean to, but I'm trying to figure out how we're going to move forward here. I think that probably the two main objectives is to improve water quality and quantity. Quality being controlling sedimentation and erosion and that sort of thing. Quality or quantity can also be addressed. It occurs to me that the real quick and easy answer are stormwater runoff catch reservoirs that can then be released slowly, and ponds and reservoirs. And it occurs to me that whenever you say reservoir or pond or anything like that, some of the fishery people in the downstream Fish and Game, Lake Oroville, Southern California, California Water Project, all those people don't want to slow that water up, but they want it to go down the river. When I think that a big thing that this group and this overall plan should do is somehow to try to, like this big storm event we just had, we had a lot of water. If we could have held some of that water for later use, it would be a huge benefit to this area and the watershed we're talking about. But it seems like we're going to have, while that's what we're trying to accomplish, we're going to have a lot of opposition from some of the agency folks, whether it's DWR, Fish and Game. So, I mean, it's like we're being tasked with a challenge that seems to me the readily apparent answers are not going to be acceptable.
Water storage would be the issue?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is water storage or flood management. I mean, flood management actually falls in that too. Yeah, they're both. So I think that's...
Water timing is an important issue as much as quantity, and I somewhat disagree that I think for most of the people managing the reservoirs downstream, they would much rather not come right now. They would rather come in June when it's worth a lot more money. PG&E would tell you that. June, July, and August when it's worth way more. I could tell you. They don't want it right now either. They want it to come slowly.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, with Oroville, you know, we don't want to see a 97 where all the water is right there at one time. It actually will end up going out to the ocean, and it doesn't meet really all the beneficial uses we'd like to put it to. If it can be slowed down reasonably well, we get a better, so to say, accretion to the reservoirs at a better time, we can better manage that supply and make most of it. So
Well, I
that's
guess-
DWR interest.
I guess that, kind of jumping ahead here, but what I'm suggesting would be proposed projects, and I'm thinking of a lot of call them what you want to call them. I'm going to call them reservoirs, and small reservoirs, but to catch this stormwater runoff with release structures built into them so that after the event, you can go ahead and release it at what would be an acceptable rate of flow to minimize erosion and sedimentation. But going to the, as far as the water board and those people are concerned, it seems like, man, if you start talking ponds, storage, pretty soon you start talking fines and fees and licensing and regulation and all. It seems to be there's a lot of opposition to that sort of thing. And I may be oversimplifying this, or I'm not able to see I'm only able to see the real obvious stuff. And it seems like if we could have stored some of this water that instead just washed a bunch of mud down the river, we would all benefit, but I don't know that there would be any support for that type of thing.
Well, I guess I would trying to keep things kind of moving along here is I think that that you're speaking to an issue like that we kind of identified, or two of them, that's water storage and flood management related to what you're saying, and you're kind of maybe jumping to one mechanism that might address those issues, but there may be other mechanisms that do it. And so I think right now we're still kind of at that, like, identify issues. We're not really here today to say how that will happen. That's going to be part of the work in progress, is deciding, all those options. And so I think identifying the issues right now is, kind of where we're at, and we're not worried. I mean, what you're talking about will come out down the road, but I think that identifying those issues and knowing that there may be multiple ways in which to address them.
Floodplains.
Okay. And lock up floodplains, or?
You're talking flood management, John?
That's the issue.
Preserving the few that we have left and enhancing what used to be a floodplain, maybe, generally speaking, floodplains.
Yeah.
So they're going to get at, I think what Jeff was saying, like extending surface flows. The flows in all of our creeks are diminishing. I think an issue is we need to extend
Sure, and that may be the issue.
length,
Yeah.
and how we do it, we can figure out another way of extending the surface.
So,
So water release timing is what we're talking about.
yeah. Were you able to capture that? Cindy, you have a hard job right now. Sure, I'm
A big issue for Mountain Meadows Conservancy is we'd like to find a way to work together with PG&E and adjacent landowners to exclude cattle from the PG&E property around Mountain Meadows Reservoir. They've surrendered their grazing leases there years ago, but they haven't bothered to build the fences required to keep the cattle off of their property. And short of a lawsuit, we haven't found a way to make them do it. Also, we'd like to work to exclude cattle from perennial stream riparian zones that are tributary to Mountain Meadows Reservoir. There's water quality issues, fisheries issues involved there. And I want to say one more thing in terms of storage. In this last storm, Mountain Meadows Reservoir, if they raised the spillway level like they can and should do, we could have captured thousands of acre-feet of water there. They just put it down. And someone I know spoke with the PG&E manager not long ago, and he asked, well, when are you going to put those boards in the dam? And he said, the guy said, well, we just want to get all that water down to Warville as soon as possible. So here's a reservoir that could have captured some water, but due to lack of management, that didn't happen. And if we don't get any more rain this winter, the reservoir won't fill up this spring.
So maybe one of the things that I heard out of actually almost the whole thing you were saying was better maybe collaboration and working with other groups and entities. You talk about working with PG&E, but finding a way as a group to collectively work better together. And maybe that means bringing more people to the
Grazing
table.
management is what they were talking
And
about.
grazing management, yep.
I'd like to add for all terrains, floodplains, water bodies, and meadows for the benefit of fish and wildlife. improve wildlife habitat, fish habitat. John already said fish habitat.
And we don't have any recreation people here, do we?
That was what I was
Is
going
that what
to
you're, okay.
talk about. Yeah, I think we ought to take a look at the recreational facilities and all of the lakes in the area. There, sort of a peace broke out in the meeting the other night, late in the night, with Lake Almanor. And all of a sudden, people begin to have great ideas as soon as the threat of the temperature curtain began to diminish. And people began to talk about what they would really like to see. There was a lot of talk about above Lake Almanor for both fish and birds. I understand I was called by the lawyer for all those people this morning about whether or not we could go back and take a look at the alternatives that had been cast aside, which were all what you're talking about right
Is
now.
that the attorney who was at the meeting?
Yeah, Hans-Peter Walter.
Yeah.
Chronic Hospital. And, I assured him that the environmentalists that I know are interested in that sort of thing, and many of the other people in the community. So I think recreation and how to do this over the next 50 years is a big thing. And PG&E assured, Tom Jarrett and his boss, assured me that they are very interested in Mountain Meadows in particular, was one that came up, because there's so many things that can be done between Mountain Meadows and Hamilton Branch. A lot of things that can be done on the North Fork up to the borders of Lassen, River below, just a different view of recreation.
Yeah, there's recreation facilities tied to the FERC licensing, which everybody should know right now, Buck Creek is in the FERC licensing, the beginning of it. There's a settlement agreement in Almanor that lays out a lot of recreation facilities. We're kind of going beyond that, but I wanted to let you know that those FERC licensings also establish rec facilities, and that will be happening, a review of that at Bucks Creek, Bucks Lake, that whole system.
One of the only other thing that, because I agree with everything else that's been said, but one of the things that seemed to be fairly clear is that we ought to, since there is $1.5 billion available in Prop 1, and since this is the most important watershed in the state for large numbers of people, above Waterville, that we ought to take a look at Prop 1 and what they say that they want to fund, and try to make sure that we're available for that.
Yeah, I think Terry provided a flyer on the Sierra Nevada Conservancy's page. They downloaded and kind of reviewed those guidelines. Mine is going to be funneled into various entities from Prop 1, and they already want people to tune to that too, yes.
One piece that Jeff brought up that I thought was really good one for this issue is sediment management, which we all saw. The sediment moving on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of this week.
Can someone give me, when you say sediment, can someone give me a definition, because it's kind of cloudy.
No
pun intended. The actual, sediment, depending on who is talking, it can be different things. And so before, people can argue, they need to, what is the definition? When they say sediment, because the movement of gravels and sands is a natural occurring thing. So when does it become something that's negative? That's a good question.
Sediment comes off the roads. That's one place. The existing Prop 50 grant has money for the National Forest. to do improvements.
So it'd be like fire from the runoff and fires.
Bingo, roads work, well, that's one of them, but I mean, let's focus on roads a little bit here. Roads provide a source of sediment, and we have old roads that maybe weren't maintained or weren't put in very well, and so some of that money is being used to fix some of the Forest Service roads that we know are producing sediment. So, and a fire also produces sediment, the potential for sediment.
So that is a pollutant sediment? Or is that just, you're talking about like granite sand roads that just washes them away?
It not only washes sediment into the system, it clogs the creeks and small tributaries.
Yeah, because it's just kind of, to me, it's a little bit, when you see that sediment stopped, I mean, the dams and things stop it, and that is an issue with dams, that it backs up. But when you look at some places below the dams, it's kind of down cutting, and then other places it's filling in. So is sediment sand, gravel, rocks, or sediment something that's a pollutant?
Well, what I was referring to more than anything is like the real fine grained stuff that we see. So
cloudy.
So I was just across Hamilton Branch recently, and downstream of Mount Pleasant Reservoir, there's like chocolate milk. Super.
But why is that? It's always that way.
No, it's not.
I mean, but it's several times I've seen it really, really
Hamilton
dark.
Branch is actually, or just
Yeah, it's Hamilton Branch.
But it's not always that way.
No, not always. Okay, I take it back always. But I've seen it after a storm. It's
one of the reasons is because it's a really shallow reservoir. So when a big pulse of water comes through, it's not like it's basically just moving right over.
Okay, so that's below the reservoir, so it's kind of stirring up. I just wondered why that particular creek seemed more chocolate.
It's really chocolatey a lot.
So that's to answer the question. If the environmental groups in the valley had their way because of sediment, they would like to have it. They'd like to have sediment coming in storms because that's what
ebb and flow.
Yeah, that's what built that deep.
But if you have so much sediment coming down that you bury fish eggs, for example, that's too much, and then it's a bad thing.
And at the wrong.
But you need some, and you need some gravels, and you need some places where gravels are regularly scoured clean for those purposes. I mean, it's like chocolate. Too much is probably not good, but you need some.
So I think that what Heather might have identified though here too is something that the work group should think about, because sediment's going to be something that keeps coming up as we talk about. I mean, it's obviously an
part
issue,
of it's natural,
but
defining
what we mean when we do stuff. So that'll be part of what this group's going to be kind of doing is as we talk about this, and you have an issue or you're thinking about something, and it's going to be very site specific. It's going to be habitat specific, and one of the things that hopefully we can get our hands on some of the Forest Service reports. I don't know how much they're going to have, but they, at least on the forested lands, have, we don't know how many volumes of studies of stream reaches, and they define it by habitat type, and some places you're going to want to have the fines, and some places you may want rocks. But I think that's just something to keep in mind as we do this stuff, and it's a really good point, Heather, is that what do we mean when we say that in certain parts of things that we bring up? What are we kind of talking about?
Sort of an example of overabundance of sediment. Rock Creek Reservoir basically has 3 hours power generation capacity. It's almost completely full of sediment.
That one below the Maple Leaf Inn, that one.
Over 3 million yards of material in there.
Where Little Indian Creek comes right into that.
Well, it's the East Branch and the North Fork. They're all, whatever it's collecting, it's the first reservoir on the North Fork system, and it's basically full of sediment.
And sediment has a great effect on temperature as do other things.
Right. So I think that's the key thing. No one's interested in sediment. People are interested in the deleterious effects of too much of it. So you want to identify fish productivity is your issue, reservoir storage for power production. Those are the issues you're interested in. No one's interested in sediment necessarily.
Well,
amphibian productivity.
Do you want to replenish the floodplain at various times? I mean, why is the Nile so legendarily fertile? It's because it gets a sediment flow that comes in and refertilizes.
Right.
But you don't want. I mean, it depends on where and when.
Exactly. So I think if you define the things that you don't want or you do want from sediment, then it's much more clear what kind of projects will derive from that.
You're gonna have T&E species are gonna be an issue in any project you wanna do, possibly.
Threatened and
Threatened and endangered.
Well, I don't do well with that one. Danny.
That's good to clarify.
But they will present some possibly procedural or design challenges, shall we say?
But they could also increase your likelihood of funding if you were to show these benefits.
You could also, yeah, you could also use that as your attractant for projects.
So that'll come out more as we start to get where we're designing projects or talking about projects more. So does everybody feel like, I don't know if you want to hold that up, so many people could see or hear, or
I've got one more. Impacts from abandoned mines.
Okay.
The only other point I can think of right now is that I'm on the committee, the forestry group, and the integration of the two programs should happen as early as possible. Because if we don't, we're going to find out that we're arguing with each other. And that's the kiss of death in sort of any project.
And I think we will be having a project, we'll be having all the work groups coming together, probably our 4th meeting, so we'll be able to, but I know that I've been
That's
trying.
why I'm here, just
That's
to
why
make sure
Leah's here, I usually go to her,
things
so we've
don't
been
lie.
actively. Because one of the funny things that the California Water Fund did is it put some interesting stuff into Uplands Forest in their chapter for the resource management strategy that really seemed like they should have gone more in Meadows and Floodplain too, and so there's some really strange interaction there.
There was, because of the lack of the forest people, and I think you were one, I think I was one, but we were finding that we were speaking in a sort of like in Aramaic, and the Romans didn't understand us down below. It is sort of critical that while we do it to benefit our area, we do it in a fashion that shows benefit for downstream. Otherwise, we're going to run into the face of Oroville Reservoir. I mean, where everything's different on one side and everything different on the other.
I definitely agree. Is everybody issued out maybe, or we got, and we can always add. This is not, this is a dynamic process. It's going to keep us as people get more engaged and more on board. But if no one has anything else really to add, we can kind of go with what we got in. If you want to just hold it up or just see if there's areas.
Excuse me, but I have
Awesome. Actually, if you want to just maybe hold that, I think there's that one. Yeah, do you have that tape there? Yeah, Dennis.
I noted that one of the goals, one of the 7 goals in the 05 plan was with regard to restoring the salmon fishery in the upper Florida. And I was just curious, because I didn't notice that mentioned anywhere in the draft new plan. I was curious, has that issue been set aside now as far as the Irwin program is concerned?
It's not set aside. I think it was waiting for groups to bring it to the floor. So it's kind of, again, that you as a group are really supposed to be the driving process, and there are some entities that are interested in bringing that to the group, but I think they're kind of rallying their information and working that out. But I suspect it will show. I'm pretty certain it will show back up again.
Yeah, as an issue, I'd
As an
like to
issue.
bring it up now.
Huh?
I mean, if you reflect that.
That will bring. Yeah. Okay.
But my interest actually is more in the Middle Fork Range.
For salmon.
Yeah.
And when we do get to
And
the
probably Stewart.
Can someone point over there on the map where the Middle Fork is?
Charlie,
Comes out of the Sierra Valley, runs along through.
There's a lot of times it gets
Or Ryan,
confusing.
someone-
North Fork.
Portola.
Close to Portola, Sierra Valley.
Did it have native? Does it? Because the Yuba River has.
Yeah, I know where it is, but a lot of times people don't know. I mean, it's hard to, where it ties in.
So as we move through this afternoon, we will have an opportunity to add objectives. So the ones that we were given, we likely won't change the goals that are being presented or we're going to be reviewing, but with the objectives, if this group finds that there was something that was not listed, we can add that and recommend that and put that to the management group. So we can definitely, maybe where this one comes into also is actually a specific objective. And the only, there's one other thing, and again, we don't seem to have a whole lot of, well, and we do have people from the Almanor area. I don't know if water quality issues related to boating and stuff like that, and recreation are things that have been something that I don't have a real strong handle on up here. I don't know if that's an issue, since we don't have someone who's come to the table with that.
I would suggest that we wait to the next meeting, and I believe we could give you a list of the people in the Almanor Basin who are suddenly very interested in that.
Okay.
All 350 of them attend.
Yeah, I hope it's the, now I went home in the middle, but I hear the second half was different than the first half.
Well, the last
So we table that one maybe right now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not doing FERC. I just was really, that wasn't my intention to go down there. I'm thinking of boating and things like that because that is definitely one of the resource management strategies that was defined here. But if we don't have any champions for it, or it's not an issue, but I can't see it not being an issue.
It's an issue. I mean, we're the watershed group. We're the ones in charge of water quality monitoring, and so I think it is. It's mostly from a recreation standpoint.
That's what I'm thinking.
Fisheries,
yeah.
And then obviously human health.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been monitoring the long term with the help of DWR, water quality monitoring, and have identified issues, especially related to phosphorus into the lake that is, creating potential human health hazards eventually from cyanobacteria.
My impression from the conversation this morning was that the sudden death of the temperature curtains, which folks have been working against for years and years and years, it sort of died in the middle of the meeting. Has everybody now thinking of what they should have said at that meeting about how PG&E and the state board could actually help improve the combination between streams and rivers now that something's not being jammed down their throat?
Russians brought that up from California Fishing Alliance. I don't know if you're aware about both the river and the lake being improved for all aspects of recreation and fishing.
So there's a lot of land use issues that we think are probably the biggest issue with Almanor now is that there's proposed, as the economy comes back and more development comes in the area, that there's a lot of sources of nutrients into that lake.
Yeah, and it's not only fish there. I mean, that is one of the two most impressive bird areas in the county. And there's a tremendous interest in that. And there are endangered species.
So we maybe want to make a distinction then of water quality in lakes maybe or in water bodies as opposed to the water quality that we're, I think above where we're talking more about streams.
Well, yeah, I think they're both.
The water quality is being tested. Well, it's been tested for over, how many years now? Can you interject anything? You hold up fingers?
In Almanor?
I couldn't say it. As long as we've been, which is 10 plus years.
You're good.
Yeah, so we're talking irrigated lands.
No, I was talking water bodies. I was just saying making.
But I'm just saying there is a lot of data supporting the streams and the monitoring that's gone on.
Okay.
But not
And
necessarily.
it may be then that nothing, that's not really an issue, then I don't know, though it seems like the water quality stuff, but I was just making a distinction between lakes and water bodies and, but we don't have to put that down. Just leave it as what it is.
Yeah, I think we can be relatively brave about water quality because it's the best I know of in the state. So if they begin to get, but it's something that needs to be addressed. If just to say it's cool.
You're going to go into potential projects?
We can do, if we have some, Cindy, maybe start another page. It would be nice to get a feel from this group of what potential projects might be looming right there, because those would definitely be the ones we might be wanting to massage and push forward sooner rather than later if there are some things so we can spend
I look at this part as kind of a brainstorm.
So now we're kind of thinking more specific projects. So, and we've had some kind of brought up, I mean, in terms of
Yeah, certainly in Mountain Meadows,
fencing off
we're working,
areas.
it's been kind of slow getting a memorandum of understanding with TDEP. But we certainly have some fence improvements, mainly just rebuilding some existing fences along the shoreline.
So maybe fence improvements in the Mountain Meadows area, is that kind of capture it? Okay.
Yeah. So Terry, you want these to be site specific?
They can be, if you know some things, I mean, I feel like we're trying to get a sense for that, you know, what this group wants to put forward, and so putting those out there now. So if you have some right now.
Last time, kind of a brainstorm.
Are we ready to do projects?
I think this is
Without
project
falling
ideas.
into a war?
This is project ideas. I mean, I would like to kind of, I would like to keep this as an open forum. Let's like leave all that other stuff outside. It's just about open ideas, and an idea doesn't hurt you, and neither do words. But let's not throw any tools out of the toolbox. Let's just, you know, right now it's just that opportunity to just brainstorm, and we don't need to go into a really great discussion about the pros and cons or whether we're going to do one or the other. I think the way that, you know, what the consulting team is looking for and the management group from us is ideas. And if we get bogged down arguing about whether those ideas are going to go forward or not, at this point we're kind of limiting ourselves to what we can actually accomplish with this group. So I think by just throwing things out there. So if you have project ideas,
Yeah, I do.
Bill, okay, Bill, I know you. I know to you, but it's taxing. So
Humbug Valley, Yellow Creek, and including the uplands and forest areas. And I don't know what that's going to take because of all the multiple problems with that system. But from whirling disease to erosion to just about everything that can go wrong with a very special area has gone wrong up there.
So
Forest fires.
So do you feel like in this case actually a study, because what's going to probably rise out of some of this too is that some places we are going to need a study versus actual implementation right now. And that's part of what we're trying to identify. And I think
Well, we've studied the heck out of that area.
So do you have some? Okay, I just.
But I don't know that we have any recommendations because, as an example, with whirling disease, I'm not sure anybody knows how to deal with it. And until we get some really a good understanding of the uplands area, which I don't think anybody has, we're going to have some difficulty dealing with Yellow Creek itself. So, but I think that there are really important projects in there, and CalFish, California, has been involved in there for years and years, not Trout Unlimited, but Cal Trout has been involved in this for a long time.
Okay. So what you're telling the group is that this is a high priority area, and
Well, you know, the CRIM has been in there just a year ago. We've done, UC Davis has identified the whirling disease problems that are in there.
No, it's great. I just want to be clear what we
Stewardship Council
capture.
and my duties, Northern.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of the largest landowners in that area now is the Maidu. PG&E.
Have they transferred?
Yeah.
They have?
So it's a completely different thing that I would like to learn about. Because I've read the PG&E data and I'd much rather that we let the Maidu tell us a little about how it works.
Okay. So, but I mean, I think
But
it's
there's
good that
definitely a relationship in Yellow Humbug Valley between the uplands, the forested areas, and the valley itself, and the river and the stream.
So maybe something you can understand that connection, or making sure we have the studies to understand the connection better on that one.
So as a placeholder, if we're going to be talking about places, it would be, you guys have talked about Hamilton with your connection, but it would be the North Fork above Lake Almanor. I think there's real potential there.
Yeah, one project I'd like to see, which is a PG&E kind of project, is there's an overflow channel that drops the water from the divergent channel. Let me say this again. So on PG&E land, there's an issue that needs to be addressed that's contributing sediment to Mountain Basin. And it's basically where the water trough that brings water to the Hamilton Branch penstock, whenever they want to stop the water going down the penstock, they basically open a gate and it floods this man-made channel that's not lined. So I think that would be a really good kind of project. I don't know how PG&E would get involved. I mean, they'd have to take the lead, but that's a concern of a lot of people in the basin. And it's a poorly designed system. Loomis Corporation's analyzed it in the past. When I drove by and saw the chocolate milk a few weeks ago, that channel was flowing. So basically, I don't think they were running a penstock.
Is there a fish ladder on
The fish ladders don't work, which is one of the other
There's one that
problems
doesn't work
that
up
you would
there.
identify.
So that's a
And
challenge,
to you, it's a very
obviously, but
Yeah.
So that would be like fish ladder replacement effectiveness.
Yeah, the fish passage.
Fish
Whether
passage.
it's ladders or culverts or the channel that is necessary,
See, I think
some channel.
Paul might have had something to say back there, and then Jeff has had his hand up where he's resting, but I think Paul did.
It's a rather large piece of landscape, but just generally there's opportunities for projects to improve road surface, drainage, and crossings.
That's probably for sediment, that's probably the first study that should be done is unpaved roads. Take a look at what's going on there.
And we may have, I know the Forest Service may have some, so it's, but these are good things to identify, and this is what helps this group start to make decisions too. I think Jeff was, and then I'll grab you later.
Yeah, I'm all rested now.
Oh, okay, good.
No, I'd like to see a feasibility study on putting the water that's diverted from the Little Truckee River, comes to Sierraville, Coldwater, or Coldstream and Perry Creek, putting that into a pipe.
I agree 100%.
Really? Is somebody writing this down?
I am. I've been talking about that for.
Yeah.
Wow.
Putting that diversion water into a pipe around and across the Weber Lake Road and down the steep section where the erosion and sedimentation is severe. And then also,
Maybe some hydropower too.
now you got me going. I'm going to be really going out on a limb here and talk about the feasibility study of, as we talked about, a reservoir above Canyon Ranch in that canyon there.
Where's that?
In the same water, the same stream, further down above Sierraville and above Canyon Ranch, and then development that runs up through there, and above all the private ground, up in there about somewhere in the neighborhood of Coal Creek Campground. I think that the benefits of that in timed release, sedimentation, erosion, flood control for the city or the town of Sierraville, disturbance of existing sedimentation in the valley, and when you get a flood, there's just no end to the benefits of a reservoir. There's recreational benefits, fish and wildlife benefits. It seems to me that, I know it's a way out there thing, but I think that it's a legitimate idea, and a study, would determine that.
And is that Coal Creek right when you get off? Right when it's dropping down in that ditch?
Yep.
That's all Coal Creek?
Well, I don't know
That diversion
specifically where they say Coal Creek starts, but the diversion water comes in, and then there's Onion Valley drainage that comes in there, and there's Rice Canyon drainage that comes in there.
Cottonwood Creek.
All those would run into potentially that reservoir that I'm talking about. But I mean, the damage, the storm damage, flood damage in recent years in Sierraville has been pretty substantial. And also the, the damage to that ecosystem down through there, and there could be a huge benefit, I think. And right now, when the water is turned in on March 15th there, it's generally too early to utilize. So it just runs straight down through there, runs straight through the valley, causing more sedimentation, and it just flows right on down the river, rather than being able to utilize it at later season. And so.
Okay.
Now, wait, with all due respect to Jeff, and that's fine, but everybody should understand, this is all private water that he's talking about. It's Sierra Valley Mutual Water Company water. And we're taking, it's the only place as far as we know, in the western United States where they take water out of the Great Basin to have it flow into the Pacific Ocean. So if we're going to do things like that, we've already looked at the cost of a screen on that facility, and it exceeded $350,000 to make sure that we aren't transporting Great Basin fish into the Pacific Ocean. So if we're going to talk about things like that, we're moving into a whole different area.
Right, and I think right now, again, we're just about kind of getting some
I've
ideas
lived
out.
my entire life in Sierraville, and I cannot remember this great disasters that have happened there.
Right,
In the last 70 years, maybe before me.
I know, and I think
I'm talking about
Jeff
the
recognized.
200-year floods that we're talking about.
And what happened is the whole town's still there.
Well,
Right, but I think,
let me I'm going to help Terry here.
Yeah.
Let me throw ground rule. Don't criticize other people's ideas at this point. It's just about getting the ideas. Nobody's going to make a decision. And I'm not saying you're criticizing.
Just trying to explain that that's a whole different world.
Right, and he's saying feasibility.
Feasibility study, so.
But let people talk and bring up their ideas. It's kind of a brainstorming session. It's not meant to go, okay, we're going to run with this or do this. Just let ideas flow. You made some good points, and Jeff said a feasibility study. Okay, but there's a lot of different perspectives in this room, to say the least. And there's a propensity to go, I don't like that idea. I'm going to say, don't do that. Just sit back and listen to these ideas. We'll take notes of them. They're not set in stone, meaning they're going to become policy or they're going to become a project at this point. But it's an opportunity for people to get their ideas out. And if people can't feel like they can have that opportunity without somebody saying, no, that's not a good idea, then we're not going to get the ideas. So I'm going to set that kind of ground.
Randy, I think it's a great idea. It's going to make me wealthier. So I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that we all understand what we're talking about.